appreciate you guys having me. Thanks, coaches. Obviously, for those who don't know me, I'm Coach Mossa, Mr. Mossa. Football guys, you've heard my story in the past. I'm really grateful to be given the opportunity to come out to as many teams as I can in season and just tell it. I like to look at this experience for me as actually been very therapeutic, just telling this and kind of my experiences going through what I went through. But I start off with it right away. When I was 19 years old, my best friend and roommate in college tried to commit suicide, and I witnessed his first attempt. When I used to tell this story in the past, I used to tell it from almost his point of view. And as I've gotten older and kind of went through this process on my own, I think it's really important to tell kind of what I was going through throughout that whole experience. He's a great kid. The signs, he was the life of the party. There were no signs, no nothing. I was with this kid every day of my life from the time I was 14 until that night in college, and I couldn't tell you that anything was different. And the night that it occurred, it was a shock. I mean, I think at any time somebody, attempts something like that, there's a lot of questions and like, why did this happen? Why did this occur? And at that time, at 19, I had no idea why. My first initial reaction was shock. I think you go into a state of just, you can't believe what just happened. Your body doesn't process it, especially at a young age, your mind doesn't. And then, there's a downhill effect to it, the aftermath of it. And that's kind of what I want to talk about. So after the events occurred and, my friend, luckily, didn't die, I was left at Salisbury University by myself for the first time, away from him in going on 6 years almost. I remember waking up in the dorm like the next day, literally about 7 a.m.-ish, earlier than I usually would have got up, and I felt like I was in shell shock. Like, I felt like everything around me was moving slow. I didn't feel okay. I didn't know how to feel. I wasn't upset, wasn't angry, just wasn't even confused. It just felt like the lights were on and no one was home. I remember something very vividly. I get a knock on the door early, like right after I'd gotten up, and I opened the door, and it was a woman from the university. She said, the university had found out what had happened, and she told me I wasn't allowed to attend classes until I used their counseling services. And my first initial reaction was I was so mad. I had 3 classes that day, and I was mad. I was mad at him because now I had to miss something in my life, and as selfish as that sounds, that was the first thing I thought of. And as a 19-year-old in my head, I was thinking, I'm just going to get this done so I can get back to my life, move on, try to put the pieces back together and forget, kind of bury it internally and bottle it. I went to their counseling session. I would love to sit here and tell you it was beneficial, but I didn't take it seriously at all. I did it to check the box off so Salisbury let me go back to class. And that's what I did. I powered through the session, and then I made my noon class, and I pressed on. And I was alone in the dorms for a couple weeks, and I was in college, I was in a fraternity, and I didn't realize this at the time, but every day on campus, somebody would come from our fraternity and just knock on my door and be like, hey man, what's up? You want to go get food? You want to go do this or that? Or, hey man, I got time between classes and I want to hang out with you. And I didn't think anything of it. We're a group of friends, we all hang out, but it was consistent. It was like clockwork every day. And in that time I was alone, away from my friend who had left to deal with, obviously his own mental health crisis. I figured out my fraternity brothers had set a schedule up to come visit me to make sure I was okay. And I didn't really realize that later until I was a little older, how much that meant to me, because I went from every day having my best friend with me to now questioning everything I've ever looked at my best friend, and what did I miss? Why am I a bad person? And that was tough. That was really tough for me. And I would love to stand here and tell you that I, sought help young and took care of that issue right away. But it took me until my early 20s to really realize how traumatizing that was for me. Because I witnessed something that was horrendous. And the ramifications of that, not only seeing someone I loved go through that, but the actual act of witnessing it and then just burying it deep inside and not dealing with it. It took an own personal struggle in my life to really step back and realize that I was not in a good place mentally. And I had graduated college with honors. I got a job right away, new car, everything was going up. And it took something happening to me personally that really affected my own mental health to take a step back and realize that I hadn't even processed the trauma I dealt with in college. I just buried it and got through it and pretended like it was okay. I remember the first day my friend came back, and I told this to the football team, and I was sitting in the dorm, and I knew he was coming back that day, and I was so nervous. And this is my best friend. I was like, I don't want to see him, and I was mad. I was going to tell him all this stuff, like, how could you do this? How could you do this to me? Like, you didn't tell me. Like, think about what I went through, and I was so mad. And I remember I hear the swipe on the door of the key card click, and he walks through, and every angry word I wanted to say to him went out the window. I just remember hugging him for the longest hug of my life, felt like, and just so happy to see him. And I think in that moment I realized, as angry as I was at him, I was just happy to see him. And it meant a lot to me to see that he was at a state where he felt okay coming back. And obviously him and I worked through a bunch of stuff together through that. The biggest thing I have learned through helping him out, as well as helping myself, is this is not like a one-day process where you get the help and then you wake up on the Tuesday and you're good. There were constant uphill battles every day or week and years of being there for him. And sometimes it felt like it was a burden to me. And I know that's selfish to say, but I'm just being honest. Because I felt like at times I was putting a lot of effort into somebody else's life and not my own. And I was putting my own mental health on the back end. And that was tough. And that was a tough realization to come to. But right out of college, I had realized something wasn't right with me. You kind of get that feeling where you look into the mirror and everything's going well and you just don't feel good. You can't really pinpoint what it is. Everything's fine. Life at home was good. New job, excited, out of college. You're young, you want to do a bunch, and I just felt like I didn't have it. Not that I didn't have the energy to do anything, there was no excitement. And it took something happening to me to really step back and realize that I need help. And that conversation scared me to no end. Because I'm young, right out of college, still living at home, and I remember I walked downstairs. I remember my mom and dad sitting in the living room. And again, 23, I'm still on my parents' insurance. So I was like, if I'm going to ask for medical help, I need mom and dad to approve it because I'm on their insurance. And I was so nervous. I was so nervous what my dad and mom were going to say. I walked down. I said, Mom and Dad, I'd like to talk to somebody. I'm really not doing well. I need help. My mom really didn't say anything. I think she was upset, but not like at me. I think just at the situation. And I remember my dad saying, good, I think you need it after what you've been through. And oh my God, it felt so good. It felt like such a relief that I had that support. So I ended up getting into therapy in my early 20s, and it exponentially changed how I viewed kind of the world, but myself in particular. At 22, 23, you feel invincible, nothing's gonna take you down. And then you watch somebody close to you struggle, and then those struggles kind of trickle down onto you, and you're so worried about helping somebody else, you forget to take care of yourself. And that's the kind of situation I was in. And therapy was an uphill battle for me too. I was stubborn. I'm 23, I'm fine, I'm tough, I can get through it, But I remember sessions with my therapist where he would call me out on some of the stuff I was saying and put me in my place, and there were sessions where he let me vent, and it was great. I cannot stress how beneficial that was to me. And I think the biggest thing with young men in particular is you don't take care of your mental health at all. The expectation is you were tough, you'll get through it, we'll power through, move on the next day, keep grinding, nobody's checking on you. But that's not true. That's a tough realization to come to. I think the most courageous thing a man can do is ask for help when he needs it. That's the scariest thing you're gonna do in your life as a young man, is ask for help. Because you're proud, and everybody has told you growing up, you're tough. Get through it, men, get through it. It's okay to not be okay. And me telling myself that I'm not okay and I need help saved me. I don't know where I would be at if I didn't have the courage to have that difficult conversation with my parents after going through what I went through, and basically crying to them for help. And they were a great support system. And I had a great support system in my friends too. Not a single one of my friends put me down. Nobody looked at me differently. Everybody was just happy that I was turning into the guy I was before everything. The guy I was at 17 was drastically different than the man I became at 20 after going through what I went through. It was drastically different than who I was at 23. And now I can say I'm in a very good place mentally, but to get to where I'm at now, I had to have the courage to actually ask for help and get there. I think that's what a lot of young athletes and young men don't do. What I'm trying to kind of emphasize here is you're going to go through struggles. Some of you go through struggles every single day that I couldn't even imagine. And you show up every day to school. And you show up to practice. And you work hard. Okay? You're not alone in it. The teachers here, the coaches here, the resources we have here to help you are abundant. And we want you to take that opportunity. And at no point in time, if you ever go up to me or Coach Grimes or any of your coaches and say, Coach, I need help, can we talk? Will we ever turn you away? And I know that's a scary thing to do for a 16-year-old, but that's why we're here. Okay? I love teaching. I love coaching. Okay? I'm not here for the wins. I'm not here for the trophies, any personal accolades. I tell my wrestlers all the time, I'm here for you. I show up every day for you guys, for my athletes, for my students. Okay? I grind through the 8 o'clock practices in the mornings. I'm here till 9 o'clock at night, not because I want to hang banners that say Coach Mossa's 100th win. I'm here because I want my wrestlers to hang banners, and I want them to be successful. And in order for them to get that success, I know as a coach, I need to be a strong support system. And that extends not just on the court or the mat, it extends in your personal lives or anything you guys need. Biggest thing is reach out. I know it's tough to talk to your friends, and if your friends are kind of unsure about where to go with you, please reach out to somebody you trust. Again, the biggest thing that helped me is talking about it and actually having the courage to ask questions and put myself in a situation to where I could get the help I needed. Again, sometimes I want to sit up here and just praise how much it helped me, but I cannot stress it enough that it was arguably one of the best decisions I made for myself in my life, because I don't know where I'd be at today. I'm a better fiance because of what I went through and my ability to ask for help. I became a better person. I'm a better friend. I'm a better family member, because I didn't realize some of the issues I was having was not only from the stuff I was dealing with, but some of my own internal stuff that I just wasn't processing. It's a great benefit. There is no shame in it. Okay? There is no shame in asking for help, and anybody who tells you different is wrong. Okay? You are strong even when you're weak. Even when you feel like you're weakest, you are strong. And that's the big point I think young men need to hear. And that's why I really enjoy these mental health talks. I know your coaching staff would agree. So at any point in time, if you need anything, please talk to somebody, talk to your coaches, talk to us. There's great resources in the county. Hey, Live for Thomas is amazing, and they will set you up and put you in a good situation to help you. And at the end of the day, as a wrestling coach, we could lose every single match, but if my team is in a good place and they're working hard and they're putting in the effort and mentally they're doing well, then I've done my job as a coach. So we are here for you. Your team's here for you. And please do not be afraid to speak out. Questions? Yeah. So I usually go a lot deeper. I'm kind of cut for time with wrestling. He's fine. I'd like to tell you that it was a one and done, but it was years of dealing with this. The friends who came over, I'm still good friends with them. They're going to be at my wedding. The kid who went through it, he is doing great. He has a great job, great family. And, it's amazing to see that. And that makes me upset to think about, but I couldn't imagine the last 10 years of my life without him if I wasn't there on that night he did what he did. I would never put that on anybody else to go through what I did that night, but I'm glad I was the person there. And if I lived this life 1,000 times, I'd still be there that night every time. Because, we're almost 30 and he's still in my life, and he's gonna come to my wedding, and I got to go to his wedding, and I got to see him grow. And that was worth every horrendous thing that we went through that night, hands down. So yes, I still have friends from back in college. Good friends too. Some of the best friends you'll ever meet will be in college. Anything else? Cool. I appreciate it. You guys let me come. Again, football guys got a little longer of a story because I'm a little crunched for time. But thank you, coaches. I appreciate you guys letting me talk. And thank you, Kelly.